Welcome to the Mount Vernon Fire Department Resilience Training. My name is Greg White. I've been a firefighter with the City of Mount Vernon since 2009 and currently serve as the Station 1 captain on B shift. Prior to my time with Mount Vernon Fire, I also served in the United States Air Force for 5 years, working as a firefighter at Ramstein Air Base in Kaiserslautern, Germany. I studied history at the University of Colorado in Colorado Springs and went on to complete a graduate degree in emergency management, homeland security with Arizona State University. As I progressed through my coursework at ASU, I realized that what was really interesting to me was trying to understand the different components of performance psychology within the first responder world. My first dabbling with the topic was a thesis project studying burnout among first responders in Skagit County. Since then, I've continued to study ways to understand and help our folks combat the ill effects of stress, psychological trauma, and the daily grind of life in this career field. Know that I'm not for a second trying to claim that a bunch of this information is my own. I've tried very hard to acknowledge and give credit to the many psychologists and researchers whose information I'm using. I've compiled a lot of pieces from many amazing people advancing different aspects of the science of resilience. My time in the military and in the fire service has put me in close contact with many tactical athletes for the last 2 decades of my life. I've witnessed many different backgrounds, personalities, strengths, weaknesses, and abilities. Many of our responders are type A, strong-willed, can-do men and women who don't generally like to show weakness or vulnerability in any area of their lives. These are the type of individuals that our communities call on day and night to solve problems, to fix mistakes, and to provide comfort to families, friends, and loved ones when they're having their most challenging and difficult experiences. I want to take a very preventative approach to mental health, to building resilience, and to ensuring a culture that fosters open communication around the struggles that many of our members and their families face. I know we can help people stay excited about this great career field, passionate about serving, and healthy enough to go home to be present, available, and engaged with their loved ones and with their communities when they're 5, 10, even 20 or 30 years into their career. During this class, I'm asking each of you to be honest with yourself, with your crew, and with your family. This will require you to take your cool coat off for a bit. And bear with me as I ask you to work through some exercises and quite a bit of information. The intent is to give information early and often to new hires, to their families, and of course, to have it available to any of you that might find it useful. To get started, I want to take a second to paint a picture of what I mean by resilience. When I talk about resilience, I'm talking about those people who are able to take whatever life throws at them, the good, the bad, and they're able to bounce back quickly from the ups and downs. Resilient people tend to be folks with a sense of purpose. They are people who reject victimhood. They're generally optimistic about life. They're curious, willing to struggle. They exude grit and emotional awareness. These are people with the courage to be decisive. They have a strong moral compass, and they prioritize relationships in their lives. They are not immune to difficulties or tragedy, but they see life as an opportunity to learn and to grow. Now, that's a tall order for any of us, but with an understanding of the science, both the psychology and the physiology, and with a little practice, each of us can develop and improve these characteristics in our lives. Our brains are some of the most amazing structures that exist on the planet. Here's a dumbed down snapshot of our brain's physiology. Your brain has 3 major areas that are constantly working simultaneously with one another. Each area bears the responsibility for certain functions. The oldest and most primitive part of our brain is the brain stem. This is the portion of the brain that controls many unconscious activities, things that happen without any effort or thought. These are things like your respiratory drive, your heart rate, your blood pressure. Your brainstem is going to ensure that these things continue to occur whether you worry about them or not. The second major area of your brain is the limbic system, often referred to as the lizard brain. The limbic system is where most of your emotions are activated and regulated. Within the limbic system is a small cluster of neurons called the amygdala. It's about the size of 2 almonds. These neurons play a central role in processing memory, and specifically, the memory of emotions. The amygdala is referred to as the emotional center of our brain. It's responsible for reminding us what types of things we're afraid of or can hurt us. When the amygdala is highly activated, it sends signals to our body to release more cortisol and more adrenaline and dozens of other stress hormones into our bloodstream. When this happens, digestion slows down, blood is conserved for major organs, and our respiratory drive and blood pressure increase. This is your brain and body activating the sympathetic nervous system, meaning that we are shifting to a fight or flight mode of operation. This greatly reduces our ability to access or control the third area of our brain, the neocortex. The neocortex is the part of the brain that's responsible for logic and reasoning. It's where creativity, critical thinking, and problem solving occur. One major goal for us is to learn to recognize the moments that our limbic system and our amygdala are being overactivated. If we can recognize this when it occurs, then we can figure out ways to train our body and our mind to shift back towards the most appropriate form of homeostasis, that is, our ideal state of being. Unfortunately, due to constant stimulation, busyness, non-stop connectedness, and the ever-increasing expectations of our culture, many of us live in a constant fight or flight mode. This is especially true for those of us who work in fire, law, EMS, and the military. I'll attempt to teach you some practical ways to recognize when this is happening and offer a few methods to practice shifting back into a parasympathetic or a rest and digest mode of existence. A casual glimpse into the world of first responders reveals that you all are blessed with opportunities to hang out in places where normal citizens would never consider spending their time. Each of you has or will face critical calls with sights, sounds, and smells that nobody wants to encounter. Just in Little Skagit County, we have experienced an unimaginable array of critical calls in the past decade, from a mall shooting to one of our beloved officers involved in a gang shooting, to the I-5 bridge collapsing. Not to mention kid calls, CPRs, domestic violence, suicides, blood, urine, and more feces than anybody should ever be forced to endure. Each of you has walked or is currently walking through the trenches of some ugly stuff. Combine those types of stress with frequent flyers who call multiple times per day because they're lonely, high, or intoxicated, or being on the front lines with the homeless, the mentally ill, and those suffering from different types of abuse. We are often called to deal with those whom our healthcare system and our communities at large simply don't have good answers or solutions for. Shift work and lack of sleep are also very challenging stressors that each of you face. We have a very reactive and inconsistent work environment, never knowing exactly how the day will play out or how the shift will go. One day is normal and the next is a fire, an earthquake, a kid call, or more recently, a pandemic. We are separated from our loved ones for extended periods of time, sometimes 24, 48, or 72 hours at a time, leaving them to deal with the many pressures and stresses of home life. And of course, we are constantly bombarded with stress hormones that flood our bodies each time the bells sound and the public calls on us. All of these challenges have led to significant increases in physical and mental health problems across the first responder world. In 2017, the University of Phoenix did a study to look at mental health in the first responder community. Here's what they found. 85% of first responders experience symptoms related to mental health. 34% have received a formal diagnosis of a mental health disorder. 27% have been diagnosed with depression, 10% with PTSD, and 46% experience anxiety. 69% of those responders say that mental health services are seldom or never used in their organizations. We have seen increases in suicide, PTSD, divorce, sleep disorders, cancer, substance abuse, and cardiovascular disease. In short, we need to look at ways to become more resilient and change those trends and the culture of our first responder community across the nation. Despite the impact and the reality of stress can actually be useful and beneficial in our lives. Stressful situations don't have to ruin us. In fact, they may become some of the most significant and meaningful moments of our lives. Consider how the different branches of the United States military uses boot camp. Each branch has engineered different ways to very intentionally introduce stress into the lives of their future members. Boot camp is challenging, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for most people. However, the military has figured out how to use this process to break bad habits and help people construct a sense of purpose, camaraderie, and team identity. They use it to help individuals become contributing members of a team. Their goal is to build something far greater than any one individual could ever become on their own. Sean Acker, a positive psychologist from Harvard, points out that the type of stress these soldiers experience can actually help improve happiness, increase natural human growth hormone, and boost our body's immune system response. If you think back on the moments in your own life that have most shaped or defined who you are, there's a good chance that many of those moments have been quite stressful. I want you to take a few minutes to consider some of those defining moments in your life. Reflect on the challenges, the difficulties, the relationships, or the conflicts that you've experienced and overcome. Then make a note of 2 or 3 moments that have helped make you the person you are today. If you're doing this at home, I would encourage you to press pause and discuss these defining moments with your spouse or your partner and find out what type of moments have most impacted their journey so far. If you're at work, press pause, take a moment to discuss with your crew, your company, or your partner. I think you'll be amazed at some of the stories of success, resilience, and endurance that many of our members have experienced in their lives. The next exercise I'm going to ask you to do, once again, requires you to shed that cool coat and do a little soul searching. This is a values clarification exercise. This exercise is a variation on Clay Cook's resilience class that was taught at the University of Washington. The slide shows a list of words that was put together by Mark Vestigan, founder of Exos and author of Core Performance and Every Day is Game Day. The idea is this: pause the video and search the list for the 10 or 12 words that best describe your most intrinsic values. These are words that represent your most fundamental beliefs. They guide and motivate your actions and attitudes. If there are words that you like better, feel free to substitute those. As I worked through the process, I replaced several of them with words that I liked better. As you develop a list, start to pit the words against one another, as if they were teams in a tournament bracket. As you narrow down your list, I want you to find your final 4, or maybe 3, that can serve as a reminder for you each day. These core values, once identified, should be defined and developed into a short sentence or statement. I call this a why statement. The why statement is your purpose statement. It's a quick, short reminder of sorts that will serve as a mantra for what you hold dear, why you get up, why you show up, why you endure the stressors and challenges of this lifestyle, why you give, why you serve, why you care, why you are resilient. My why statement is pretty simple. It's service before self. My final four in this values clarification exercise were service, excellence, integrity, and resilience. Largely because I can roll many other values into these concepts. I try to remind myself that excellence means that I'll be consistent, intentional, and I will be prepared. Integrity means that I need to do what's right, no matter who is watching or keeping track. And if I'm unsure about what's right, I need to examine my motivations. I know that I'll make mistakes along the way, but with a resilient attitude, I will see life as a challenge, as an opportunity to learn and to grow, even from my failures. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, "The person who has a why to live can bear just about anything." I hope each of you will take the time and the effort to do some self-examination, figure out your core values, and build a why statement that you can return to each day. The next thing I want to do is to check out a TED Talk video by Kelly McGonigal. She's a health psychologist who has spent countless hours researching stress and optimism. She points out the importance of our mindset and our social connections during times of stress.
I have a confession to make. But first, I want you to make a little confession to me. In the past year, I want you to just raise your hand if you've experienced relatively little stress. Anyone? How about a moderate amount of stress? Who's experienced a lot of stress? Yeah, me too. But that is not my confession. My confession is this: I am a health psychologist, and my mission is to help people be happier and healthier. But I fear that something I've been teaching for the last 10 years is doing more harm than good, and it has to do with stress. For years, I've been telling people stress makes you sick. It increases the risk of everything from the common cold to cardiovascular disease. Basically, I've turned stress into the enemy. But I've changed my mind about stress. And today, I want to change yours. Let me start with the study that made me rethink my whole approach to stress. This study tracked 30,000 adults in the United States for 8 years. And they started by asking people, how much stress have you experienced in the last year? They also asked, do you believe that stress is harmful for your health? And then they used public death records to find out who died. Okay, some bad news first. People who experienced a lot of stress in the previous year had a 43% increased risk of dying. But that was only true for the people who also believed that stress is harmful for your health. People who experienced a lot of stress but did not view stress as harmful were no more likely to die. In fact, they had the lowest risk of dying of anyone in the study, including people who had relatively little stress. Now, the researchers estimated that over the 8 years they were tracking deaths, 182,000 Americans died prematurely, not from stress, but from the belief that stress is bad for you. That is over 20,000 deaths a year. Now, if that estimate is correct, that would make believing stress is bad for you the 15th largest cause of death in the United States last year, killing more people than skin cancer, HIV, AIDS, and homicide. You can see why this study freaked me out. Here I've been spending so much energy telling people stress is bad for your health. So this study got me wondering, can changing how you think about stress make you healthier? And here the science says yes. When you change your mind about stress, you can change your body's response to stress. Now, to explain how this works, I want you all to pretend that you are participants in a study designed to stress you out. It's called the social stress test. You come into the laboratory and you're told you have to give a 5-minute impromptu speech on your personal weaknesses to a panel of expert evaluators sitting right in front of you. And to make sure you feel the pressure, there are bright lights and a camera in your face, kind of like this. And the evaluators have been trained to give you discouraging nonverbal feedback, like this. Now that you're sufficiently demoralized, time for part 2, a math test. And unbeknownst to you, the experimenter has been trained to harass you during it. Now, we're gonna all do this together. It's gonna be fun, for me. Okay. I want you all to count backwards from 996 in increments of 7. You're gonna do this out loud as fast as you can, starting with 996. Go. Go faster. Faster, please. You're going too slow. Stop, 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 stop. That guy made a mistake. We're gonna have to start all over again. You're not very good at this, are you? Okay, so you get the idea. Now, if you were actually in this study, you'd probably be a little stressed out. Your heart might be pounding, you might be breathing faster, maybe breaking out into a sweat. And normally we interpret these physical changes as anxiety or signs that we aren't coping very well with the pressure. But what if you viewed them instead as signs that your body was energized, was preparing you to meet this challenge? Now, that is exactly what participants were told in a study conducted at Harvard University. Before they went through the social stress test, they were taught to rethink their stress response as helpful. That pounding heart is preparing you for action. If you're breathing faster, it's no problem. It's getting more oxygen to your brain. And participants who learned to view the stress response as helpful for their performance, well, they were less stressed out, less anxious, more confident. But the most fascinating finding to me was how their physical stress response changed. Now, in a typical stress response, your heart rate goes up and your blood vessels constrict like this. And this is one of the reasons that chronic stress is sometimes associated with cardiovascular disease. It's not really healthy to be in this state all the time. But in the study, when participants viewed their stress response as helpful, their blood vessels stayed relaxed like this. Their heart was still pounding, but this is a much healthier cardiovascular profile. It actually looks a lot like what happens in moments of joy and courage. Over a lifetime of stressful experiences, this one biological change could be the difference between a stress-induced heart attack at age 50 and living well into your 90s. And this is really what the new science of stress reveals, that how you think about stress matters. So my goal as a health psychologist has changed. I no longer want to get rid of your stress. I want to make you better at stress. And we just did a little intervention. If you raised your hand and said you'd had a lot of stress in the last year, we could have saved your life. Because hopefully the next time your heart is pounding from stress, you're going to remember this talk and you're going to think to yourself, this is my body helping me rise to this challenge. And when you view stress in that way, your body believes you and your stress response becomes healthier. Now, I said I have over a decade of demonizing stress to redeem myself from. So we are going to do one more intervention. I want to tell you about one of the most underappreciated aspects of the stress response. And the idea is this: stress makes you social. To understand this side of stress, we need to talk about a hormone, oxytocin. And I know oxytocin has already gotten as much hype as a hormone can get. It even has its own cute nickname, the cuddle hormone, because it's released when you hug someone. But this is a very small part of what oxytocin is involved in. Oxytocin is a neurohormone. It fine-tunes your brain's social instincts. It primes you to do things that strengthen close relationships. Oxytocin makes you crave physical contact with your friends and family. It enhances your empathy. It even makes you more willing to help and support the people you care about. Some people have even suggested we should snort oxytocin to become more compassionate and caring. But here's what most people don't understand about oxytocin. It's a stress hormone. Your pituitary gland pumps this stuff out as part of the stress response. It's as much a part of your stress response as the adrenaline that makes your heart pound. And when oxytocin is released in the stress response, it is motivating you to seek support. Your biological stress response is nudging you to tell someone how you feel instead of bottling it up. Your stress response wants to make sure you notice when someone else in your life is struggling so that you can support each other. When life is difficult, your stress response wants you to be surrounded by people who care about you. Okay, so how is knowing this side of stress going to make you healthier? Well, oxytocin doesn't only act on your brain, it also acts on your body. And one of its main roles in your body is to protect your cardiovascular system from the effects of stress. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. It also helps your blood vessels stay relaxed during stress. But my favorite effect on the body is actually on the heart. Your heart has receptors for this hormone. And oxytocin helps heart cells regenerate and heal from any stress-induced damage. This stress hormone strengthens your heart. And the cool thing is that all of these physical benefits of oxytocin are enhanced by social contact and social support. So when you reach out to others under stress, either to seek support or to help someone else, you release more of this hormone, your stress response becomes healthier, and you actually recover faster from stress. I find this amazing that your stress response has a built-in mechanism for stress resilience. And that mechanism is human connection. I want to finish by telling you about one more study. And listen up, because this study could also save a life. This study tracked about 1,000 adults in the United States, and they ranged in age from 34 to 93. And they started the study by asking, how much stress have you experienced in the last year? They also asked, how much time have you spent helping out friends, neighbors, people in your community? And then they used public records for the next 5 years to find out who died. Okay, so the bad news first. For every major stressful life experience, like financial difficulties or family crisis, that increased the risk of dying by 30%. But, and I hope you are expecting a but by now, but that wasn't true for everyone. People who spent time caring for others showed absolutely no stress-related increase in dying, 0. Caring created resilience. And so we see once again that the harmful effects of stress on your health are not inevitable. How you think and how you act can transform your experience of stress. When you choose to view your stress response as helpful, you create the biology of courage. And when you choose to connect with others under stress, you can create resilience. Now, I wouldn't necessarily ask for more stressful experiences in my life, but this science has given me a whole new appreciation for stress. Stress gives us access to our hearts. The compassionate heart that finds joy and meaning in connecting with others. And yes, your pounding physical heart working so hard to give you strength and energy. And when you choose to view stress in this way, You're not just getting better at stress, you're actually making a pretty profound statement. You're saying that you can trust yourself to handle life's challenges. And you're remembering that you don't have to face them alone. Thank you.
So Kelly stresses the importance of social connection throughout our journey as an important aspect to coping with challenges, building support, and being able to frame stress in a positive way. One simple way to build resilience is to realize that we shouldn't try to do it alone. Endurance, excellence, overcoming adversity, and demonstrating grit are not things that are likely to be accomplished in isolation. Consider the most elite athletes, those who compete and perform at the highest level. Guys like Russell Wilson or Tom Brady. These guys have figured out the importance of building a great supporting cast all around them. They have head coaches, position coaches, strength coaches, physical therapists, performance psychologists, and many others who all speak into their lives, help evaluate their strengths, evaluate their weaknesses, and constantly help them to learn, to improve, and to grow. For first responders, it's just as important to build a good team around you to help support your priorities, your purpose, your family, as well as your physical health. I recommend that you seek out a primary care doctor that you really like, a chiropractor, a trainer, and a physical therapist who all can help you keep your body functioning at a high level. Also, seek out those who can support your mental, emotional, and spiritual life. These are counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists, mentors, spiritual advisors, and of course, great friends and family. I find it ironic that many people graduate from high school and from college after having spent decades learning and growing from teachers and coaches, and they move into the adult world and they just try to wing it for the rest of their lives. Don't miss out on the value of building a great team around you. We are better when we're interdependent, when we're connected with others. Seek out honest, constructive assistance and guidance from those you love and trust. This will help your family's dynamics, your work performance, and you may begin to notice improvements in your ability to bounce back from life's challenges and many obstacles. As you assemble a great team around you, consider adjustments to 4 areas of life in order to maximize health, wellness, and resilience. Those 4 areas are movement, recovery, fuel, and mindset. Movement means maintaining a routine and a lifestyle that ensures daily activity. Recovery looks at how you incorporate sleep, rest, and decompression practices into your life. Fuel examines what you put into your body to fuel your engine. And mindset explores our worldview, our outlook. It considers techniques to recognize and reframe the stress we encounter. The first pillar of health that we'll explore is movement. Movement considers both our formal exercise routine and how we set up our lives, our workstations, our offices, and our homes to avoid a sedentary lifestyle. The way we move has the potential to help us balance our autonomic nervous system. We use movement as a way to practice controlling our mind and body when the sympathetic nervous system is activated, then quickly recover to our parasympathetic rest or digest mode as we cool down. We can literally change our body's hormonal makeup by incorporating exercise into our daily routine. Researchers who look at fitness and movement report that participants who exercise rigorously for 20 to 30 minutes a day experience more relief from mild neuroses like anxiety or depression than those who take antidepressant medications. Obviously, you should work with a clinician and a physician to figure out your individual needs. but I can assure you that every doctor will agree movement is a basic building block for any healthy life. As first responders, each of you are tactical athletes to some degree. The physical demands of this line of work are often quite obvious. We need to pick up heavy patients. We wear heavy gear. We need to be able to work hard during a fire. We need endurance to keep going during long, busy, uncomfortable shifts and incidents. When it comes to a formal exercise routine, there are many sizes, shapes, and ages of our responders. I'm not trying to sell you on a one size fits all plan for fitness. It's not terribly important that you become a CrossFit athlete or a yogi or even an ultra marathon runner. What is important is that you learn to mimic the demands and functions of your work, no matter what season of life you are in. Taking a preventative approach to movement will save you time, money, and a lot of frustration as you age. When I was in my 20s, I often heard guys in the military say, just wait till you're in your 30s. Now, in the fire service, I often hear the same advice. Folks tell me, just wait till you hit your 40s. Or now that I'm in my 40s, I hear the same thing about my 50s. Obviously, we can't stop some of the natural consequences of aging, but we can make those later years feel a lot better by taking daily movement seriously. We should be intentional about preventative fitness. We don't want to always be reactive to injury or to illness. You should incorporate at least 3 types of formal movement into your life to help avoid physical imbalances that lead to injury, inefficiency, and poor performance. The 3 movement types that should be addressed are strength training, cardiovascular conditioning and endurance, as well as mobility and flexibility work. Practice those types of strength, conditioning, and mobility patterns that are required of you in your daily life. This will help you feel better and improve your performance. You will also begin to recognize any deficiencies that you have. You can begin to address those deficiencies before they become a problem in the field. Most tactical athletes have an easy enough time figuring out strength and conditioning programs that work for them, but many overlook the importance of mobility and flexibility. By mobility, I mean your ability to take your body through a normal range of motions, that is, natural movement patterns, without restriction. This requires flexible connective tissue, muscles, ligaments, and tendons, and a healthy skeletal system, your bones and your joints. Check out Kelly Starrett's book, The Supple Leopard, or his online resources like Mobility WOD or The Ready State. There are a ton of resources, apps, gyms, and programs available, but it may be worth your time to enlist a fitness trainer to help you figure out what type of goals and routine is right for you. If you're just getting started, look around at the people in your life who are already training well. Connect with them for advice on getting started. A formal fitness program is where peak performance is built and tested. It's where you create the ability to run a 10K, a marathon, an Ironman, or lift heavy objects. It's where you become a better tactical warrior and athlete. But maybe more importantly than your formal exercise routine is developing an active lifestyle that incorporates movement into your daily routines. In fact, people who only engage in formal exercise sessions at a gym a few times per week and have an otherwise sedentary life, those people show very few hormonal and psychological benefits from exercising. Too many first responders are glued to a recliner, a TV, a phone, or a computer screen whenever they have a chance. Ideally, your daily patterns will encourage you to get up often, to move frequently. Set up your office, your home, your workspace in a way that allows you to walk, to run, to pick up heavy objects, to sit and stand frequently. Here's a few life hacks to try and increase informal movements in your life. Try walking on a treadmill while you watch TV or talk on the phone. Try putting a pull-up bar or bands or even a kettlebell into your office. Every once in a while, hang on a bar just to let your spine decompress. Or pick up a weight for no apparent reason. Utilize a standing desk so you aren't stuck in one position for hours on end. Take frequent breaks with lots of short walks. Play games with your kids, tag, soccer, frisbee, anything to get you and them moving. Ben Greenfield, author of the book Boundless, encourages us to find opportunities to look for these tiny movement snacks all day long. This will help you feel better, move better, engage with your loved ones better, and do the activities that you enjoy without pain. Lastly, I want to leave you with some encouragement to develop some type of deep play in your life. Deep play is a way to get outside, to get moving, without the stigma or the structure of a formal gym routine. Seek out hobbies that encourage you to move while doing something that brings you joy. Rock climbing, mountaineering, riding bikes, running, photography, hiking, beach walks, bird watching, kite flying, gardening. The possibilities are literally endless. Often, these activities combine the benefits of natural light, just getting outside, with movement and the pleasure that comes from doing something you love. A bonus can be finding a community of people who love the same activities that you do. There are incredible benefits to a life full of strong relationships and good social support. The next pillar we'll discuss is mindset. There's much to consider when it comes to mindset. We already looked at the importance of clarifying our values and defining our purpose or our why. I've given you a glimpse of the physiology of stress as well as a snapshot of how important it is to view stress as an opportunity to grow. Now we'll look at optimism, a growth mindset, and discuss a few techniques to exercise your mindset muscles. Understand that our goal is not to eliminate stress or adversity, but instead to learn how we can influence our mind and our physiology. We want to be able to recognize and control our autonomic nervous system. Obviously, there are some differences between lining up for a 10K, responding to a domestic abuse call, or going into a meeting with your employees. No matter what the situation you face, there are some helpful things to keep in mind. Optimism is one important component of your mindset. Optimism in the face of adversity has been studied at length by psychologists and is incredibly indicative of resilience. Many of us are prone to seeing the world and explaining our circumstances through a lens of cynicism, criticism, and negativity. Some folks in the first responder world go to work day after day, clocking in, clocking out, simply buying time until one day, hopefully, their circumstances may change in the future. In this, first responders are not alone. A Gallup poll revealed that worldwide, only about 13% of adults are purposefully engaged at their workplace. The poll found that far more than that are actually actively disengaged in their work experience. Perhaps you are one of those people, counting down the days until retirement, or telling yourself that you'll be happier if you promote. Maybe things seem bad because of department staffing or organizational structure. Common excuses are the current workload or the current pay structure. It's easy to look for excuses to explain away our frustrations and our disappointment. First responders from organizations all across the country agree that the most common methods for dealing with their frustrations, their stress, and their challenges are to drink, to stuff it all down, and to complain to your buddies. None of these support long-term mental health, contentedness, or your happiness. It's easy to confuse peace and happiness with pleasure, which is far more fleeting and doesn't last very long. Our brains are actually designed to chase pleasure, to avoid pain, and to zone out to neutral stimuli. Most of us have some form of inner voice that is constantly chiming in to inform our subjective experience of the world. An inner voice that's dominated by pessimistic self-talk can be catastrophic to our long-term health and resilience. Henry Ford is famous for saying that whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. Our perspective and our worldview is often a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we stop looking for ways to improve, to grow, to learn, and to overcome adversity, we are sure to find ourselves in a rut. Those who maintain an optimistic outlook and a growth mindset tend to fare much better under stress and adversity. They are often paragons of grit and resilience when faced with the challenges of life. Angela Duckworth explains that optimists habitually search for temporary and specific causes to their problems, where pessimists assume permanent and pervasive causes are to blame. Pessimists might say, I screw up everything, or I'm a loser, while optimists say, the reason I messed that up is that I mismanaged my time, or I allowed myself to get distracted. The pessimistic excuse is permanent, while the optimist's excuse is very correctable. Psychological studies have confirmed that pessimists are more likely to suffer from depression, anxiety, they have shorter lifespans, less satisfying marriages, and they're more likely to be dissatisfied with their jobs. Optimists generally believe that everything that happens is an opportunity to learn. This is true of both individuals and organizational cultures. Angela Duckworth's book Grit is an excellent resource for those who are interested in learning more about the psychology of success. She is a faculty member at the University of Pennsylvania and has devoted her research to exploring grit, passion, purpose, optimism, pessimism, hope, and long-term goals. She has made many observations about why some people and organizations succeed while others crumble under pressure. If you haven't watched her TED Talk, check it out. One of the many important observations that Miss Duckworth writes about is based on the research of Carol Dweck. Carol Dweck is a research psychologist who pioneered the idea of a growth mindset. Those with a growth mindset learn that life is largely about challenging yourself. These people learn to talk positively to themselves rather than listening to that inner critic or cynic in their head. They learn from failure, embrace challenges, and persist in the face of setbacks. These people see effort as the essential path to mastering anything worthwhile. They learn from criticism rather than ignoring it or allowing it to shut them down. They find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. Rather than feeling threatened by people who do great things, these people learn not to overreact. They observe their situations, they analyze them, and they move forward very intentionally. Developing a growth mindset can be reinforced or damaged depending on the way our parents, our teachers, our coaches and mentors, even community members modeled and reacted to our mistakes and failures when we were young. It has to do with how our innermost beliefs developed, especially our beliefs about the value of effort. A person with a fixed mindset, on the other hand, believes that talent, intellect, and our capacity to learn don't really change throughout our lifetimes. Whether your tendency is generally optimistic and growth minded or pessimistic and fixed minded, it is possible to develop and improve a growth mindset. It takes self awareness, deliberate practice, hard work, and the willingness to keep trying repeatedly. When you mess it up, there's and a willingness to keep trying repeatedly if you mess it up. There's an old Japanese proverb that says, fall 7, rise 8. We shouldn't be content with cultural norms or our natural tendencies. We shouldn't be satisfied with pessimism, negativity, or a fixed mindset. I want first responders to get out of the habit of living on autopilot and to be intentional about their mindset. So, in theory, optimism and a growth mindset sound great, but how do we actually cultivate these? The first thing is to admit that your attitude and your mindset are within your control. Tom Brady says, You need will over skill. Cultivating the right mindset requires taking time to practice. Practice can help you recenter, focus, and improve mental clarity and concentration muscles. It's like sending your brain to the gym. In fact, some practices are like doing push ups for your neural pathways. Practicing mindfulness meditation is one of the most common ways that psychologists and neuroscientists recommend for improving your mindset. MRI scans reveal that meditation actually changes the brain's plasticity. The scans of long term meditators show changes to the physiology of their brains. Meditation has a 5,000-year history and has gained recent traction from high profile coaches, athletes, musicians, CEOs, and other top performers. Some proponents you may recognize are NBA athletes Jason Kidd and LeBron James, as well as coach Phil Jackson, who was a huge advocate of mindfulness meditation during his time with the Chicago Bulls, the Miami Heat, and the Los Angeles Lakers. I'd recommend checking out his book, Sacred Hoops, if you're interested in hearing more about his story. During my studies, I found that the Virginia Military Academy, the Tempe, Arizona Police Force, the United States Navy SEALs, and numerous professional athletic organizations have all incorporated different components of mindfulness into their training plans for their employees. So, how do I practice mindfulness meditation? Let me give you a few tips from Jeff Warren, the founder of Calm. Meditation is about sitting and being okay doing nothing. For busy people, it would seem like a nice rest, but instead it may prove incredibly difficult. It's mental exercise to improve focus, clarity, awareness, and concentration. Concentration is the ability to choose what you want to pay attention to. Here's how it goes. Find a comfortable seated position in a chair or on the floor. Many people use a cushion, but you don't have to sit cross-legged and wear tie-dye if you don't want to. Most people like to close their eyes, but you don't have to do that either if you don't want to. Find a posture that is alert, but not so rigid that you're tense. Relax your face, unwrinkle your forehead, relax your jaw, let your shoulders fall naturally. As you sit, aim for an attitude of acceptance. Enjoy the moment just how it is, and don't make a big deal out of it. When you sit to meditate, you may find your mind wandering all over the place. This is very normal. But as you practice, you'll realize that you don't have to be dominated by a mind that wants to run wild. We can practice not letting our brain hijack every moment of our life. Try choosing a home base, a simple thing that you can focus on. Many people like to use the breath, but you can use a sound, the feeling of a certain point in your body, say the heat of your hands or your belly. It can be anything. It's just something specific that you focus your attention on. When your mind wanders, recognize it. You can make a note of it. Maybe say to yourself, thinking or wandering, and then come back to your home base. Every time you come back, that's like doing a push up for your brain, for your concentration muscles. Eventually, your mind gets stronger and more settled. Your home base becomes like a portable reset button. It's a tool that you can take with you anywhere you go. The easiest way to experiment with mindfulness meditation is to try a guided meditation app on your phone. I like the Calm app, but there are several others out there, like Headspace or the 10% Happier app. Dan Harris has a humorous book called Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics, if you want to dig into some common questions and answers that normal people have about the practice. He goes through many options and techniques, some different strategies that are available to new meditators. Check it out. Another powerful way to train is to utilize breathing practices. Breathing helps us get that ever important exchange of fresh air into our blood. Shallow breathing drives up your blood acidity and can lead to a clouded mind. Improper breathing increases the time needed for recovery, it gets in the way of brain performance, and it's one sign of an inefficient performer. Learning to improve deep breathing through the lower abdomen will help you calm down and mentally slow down stressful situations. Breathing can improve your speed, your power, and your endurance while you maintain greater focus and clarity. Breathing affects your body's ability to recover. It influences your anatomical structure, your autonomic nervous system, and your cognitive ability. High performers take advantage of deep inhalations and powerful exhalations. There are numerous breathing patterns that you can try throughout the day. The chart you see was created by Roy Sugarman. It has some common breathing patterns to try for increased performance. A couple of patterns that I like: if you feel tired or sluggish, want a quick energy reset, try a few deep, slow inhales for a count of 4, followed by a big explosive exhale where you try to completely empty the lungs. This pattern is used by swimmers and boxers to help clear out bad air and re-oxygenate your muscles. Before bed, when reflecting or giving thanks, try a 4-2-6 pattern. This is a 4-second inhale, hold it for 2 seconds, then slowly exhale for 6 seconds. This pattern helps keep you calm, reduces anxiety, and helps balance rising cortisol and adrenaline levels. The Navy SEALs use box breathing. It's a 4x4 pattern. You inhale for 4, you hold for 4, you exhale for 4, and you hold for 4. The Tempe, Arizona Police Department uses combat breathing, which is simply being intentional to take deep, slow breaths while they're en route responding to high pressure incidents. One of my favorite strategies is called the mindful stop. This is for acute stressors like crazy 911 calls. The mindful stop is a simple acronym, STOP, that reminds me to S, stop for a second, T, take a deep breath from the diaphragm with a powerful exhale, O, observe how I feel, what stress or challenge is going on, and then P, proceed on purpose rather than on autopilot. I use this one as I think about my pending size up or naming command on a fire. It's quick, it's easy, and it improves concentration. The mindful stop is literally just one deep breath, but it helps me to recenter when I know that I will need to focus under stress. And lastly, I will leave you with this. You are not a slave to your current mindset or to the negativity of others around you. Gandhi said, "I will not let anybody walk through my mind with their dirty feet." Now we'll move to our third pillar of health. We'll look at the importance of recovery. First responders have a very dysfunctional relationship with sleep. We need to understand that sleep is the most important way our body and our mind can recover from life and from stress. It's a period of uninterrupted therapy and natural regeneration. Our body and mind are able to flush out toxins and waste products as we work through the stages of sleep each night. By disrupting these stages, this natural therapy, we hurt our ability to recover, thus lowering the likelihood of consistent energy, patience, and resilience. At work, most of us are at the mercy of the 911 system. Sleep is often neglected in service to our citizens and our community. It's important that we understand what we can do when we go home and we have control over our sleep habits. So here's a list of best practices for getting the best sleep possible whenever possible. First, good sleep starts in the morning. Get outside early. 15 minutes of natural light in the morning will help your body develop a healthy circadian rhythm. You want melatonin production at night, but that natural light in the morning will help shut off that melatonin production during the day. We talked about movement a lot already. But to sleep well, you need to get daily exercise. This will help improve your sleep drive and your circadian rhythm. Pay attention to your fuel. Caffeine and alcohol are diuretics, which lead to frequent trips to the bathroom during the night. This simple interruption disrupts your body's ability to recover. Caffeine has a 6 to 8 hour half-life, so you want to avoid consuming it within about 8 hours of bedtime. Alcohol, on the other hand, should be avoided about 4 hours prior to sleep. To make falling asleep easier, you want to avoid blue light from TVs, phones, and computer screens for approximately 30 minutes before going to bed. Set yourself a consistent bedtime and wake time. Stick to these as often as you possibly can. This might mean that you trade that Netflix binge for some energy the next day. When you do sleep, keep your room cool, dark, and quiet. Don't skimp on a decent pillow, blankets, or linens for your bed. And finally, reserve your bed for sleep and for sex. Don't let your bedroom become an office or a TV room. Dr. Michael Bruce has a fantastic website. It's thesleepdoctor.com. If sleep is a major issue for you, and I suspect that it is for a fair amount of us, check out his website. Take his sleep quiz and look at some of the technology that's available these days. CPAP machines, weighted blankets, sunrise alarm clocks. There's a lot of great tools and support out there for those of you who want to sleep better. I'm also a big believer in taking naps. Some of the highest performers in the world take naps daily. LeBron James sleeps about 12 hours every day because he expends so much mental, physical, and emotional energy trying to compete at a world-class level. Most of us, who operate as normal people, will need somewhere around 8 hours of sleep, depending on your specific physiology. If you're not getting about that because of work or small children at home, consider making naps a priority. Don't let cultural pressure or guilt get in the way of a good nap, especially after you've come home from shift. In fact, you'll probably find that you're way more productive on your first day off if you give yourself a window for napping. Check out this next video from the University of California at Berkeley for some insight on the importance of sleep.
My name is Matthew Walker. I am a professor of neuroscience and psychology at the University of California, Berkeley, and I am the author of the book Why We Sleep. We certainly know that a lack of sleep will actually prevent your brain from being able to initially make new memories. So it's almost as though without sleep, the memory inbox of the brain shuts down and you can't commit new experiences to memory. So those new incoming informational emails are just bounced and you end up feeling as though you're amnesic. You can't essentially make and create those new memories. We also know that a lack of sleep will lead to an increased development of a toxic protein in the brain that is called beta amyloid, and that is associated with Alzheimer's disease, because it is during deep sleep at night when a sewage system within the brain actually kicks into high gear and it starts to wash away this toxic protein, beta amyloid. So if you're not getting enough sleep each and every night, more of that Alzheimer's related protein will build up. The more protein that builds up, the greater your risk of going on to develop dementia in later life. What are the effects of sleep deprivation on the body? Well, there are many different effects. Firstly, we know that sleep deprivation affects the reproductive system. We know that men who are sleeping just 5 to 6 hours a night have a level of testosterone which is that of someone 10 years their senior. So a lack of sleep will age you by almost a decade in terms of that aspect of virility and wellness. We also know that a lack of sleep impacts your immune system. So after just one night of 4 to 5 hours of sleep, there is a 70% reduction in critical anti-cancer fighting immune cells called natural killer cells. And that's the reason that we know that short sleep duration predicts your risk for developing numerous forms of cancer. And that list currently includes cancer of the bowel, cancer of the prostate, as well as cancer of the breast. In fact, the link between a lack of sleep and cancer is now so strong that recently the World Health Organization decided to classify any form of nighttime shift work as a probable carcinogen. So in other words, jobs that may induce cancer because of a disruption of your sleep-wake rhythms. We also know that a lack of sleep impacts your cardiovascular system, because it is during deep sleep at night that you receive this most wonderful form of effectively blood pressure medication. Your heart rate drops, your blood pressure goes down. If you're not getting sufficient sleep, you're not getting that reboot of the cardiovascular system. So your blood pressure rises. You have, if you're getting 6 hours of sleep or less, a 200% increased risk of having a fatal heart attack or a stroke in your lifetime. There is a global experiment that is performed on 1.6 billion people twice a year, and it's called daylight savings time. And we know that in the spring, when we lose 1 hour of sleep, we see a subsequent 24% increase in heart attacks the following day. Another question perhaps is, what is the recycle rate of a human being? How long can we actually last without sleep before we start to see declines in your brain function or even impairments within your body? And the answer seems to be about 16 hours of wakefulness. Once you get past 16 hours of being awake, that's when we start to see mental deterioration and physiological deterioration in the body. We know that after you've been awake for 19 or 20 hours, your mental capacity is so impaired that you would be as deficient as someone who is legally drunk behind the wheel of a car. So if you were to ask me what is the recycle rate of a human being, it does seem to be about 16 hours, and we need about 8 hours of sleep to repair the damage of wakefulness. Wakefulness essentially is low-level brain damage.
The last topic I want to broach in our discussion of recovery is the need for good communication and a decompression routine. Nobody likes to come off a hard or a super busy shift. It's really common for us to be irritable, grumpy, and impatient with our loved ones. We can easily forget that our loved ones also experience a very unique lifestyle with lots of stress while we're gone at work. While we're gone, they get to do the job of at least two people. They cook, clean, do yard work, they coach teams, they shuttle kids, and basically make sure our families don't fall apart. They go to their own jobs, working in offices, running businesses, nursing, teaching, or any other number of high pressure jobs that are every bit as important as ours. They attend their own meetings, school conferences, make sure homework gets done. They also battle their own feelings of guilt, stress, and worry while you are away on shift. They go to bed alone. They wake up alone. They attend numerous family functions, holidays, special occasions alone. And we must remember that a resilient first responder keeps these things in mind. Being a resilient man or woman means that your role as a family member and a community member is a major priority. You must be willing, present, and participating. You must be engaged with those loved ones who count on you. So talk, listen, over communicate, be there for one another. Be authentic and vulnerable. If you've had a hard shift or a critical incident, don't just shut down. We don't want our families to unnecessarily blame themselves or think that they did something wrong. Be proactive and intentional about putting a plan in place for each of you to decompress from stress, from exhaustion, and from the pressures of work. One of the best pieces of advice I've heard was from Dr. Shannon Meyer. She said, when you've had a bad shift or a critical incident, you should treat yourself like you have the flu. Keep your expectations low, drink lots of water, and rest. But don't make your family guess about it. Let them know what's going on with you and why you need time and space for recovery. If fatigue, sadness, and anxiety plague you for an extended duration, seek out some professional help. By communicating well and flushing out some type of a decompression routine, you and your loved ones can at least get on the same page when you or they need help. Decompression routines will be specific to your circumstances and your needs. Some of you are able to unwind as you commute. For others, it will require being purposeful about how you head home or how you arrive home from work. It could mean that you hit the gym or the pool before you go home. Maybe it means you take a shower, go for a walk, then go home and have a cup of coffee with your loved one. There's no magic formula. What's important is discussing the challenges of work with your family and figuring out a plan that works for you. I've spoken with one law enforcement officer who has two routines. One routine is for normal shifts, and the other is reserved for those shifts that were extraordinary. Perhaps a critical incident or a significant conflict occurred. By understanding your own tendencies, your red flags, and your needs, you can communicate with your family members and build a plan. Divorce rates and broken families are far too common among medics, firefighters, police officers, and military personnel. I want you to figure out how to maximize your performance as a first responder, but also as a husband, a wife, or a family member. This means figuring out what you need to recover and to show up for those who are counting on you. Don't just wing it. Build a plan for sleeping, for naps, for communicating, and for decompressing. If improving your marriages and your relationship is an important part of your own personal resilience journey, then I want to point you towards Dr. John Gottman, a psychology professor and researcher for the University of Washington. He runs the Gottman Institute, and his work on love and relationships is unmatched. He has weekend seminars and retreats in the Seattle area, and he has really great web resources. Check out his course, The Art and Science of Love. For spouses and families, you may want to check out firefighterwife.com for blog articles and resources from those who understand what you may be going through. Our final pillar is fairly straightforward. We're talking about fuel. Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine." Fuel is simply what we put in our bodies to fuel our engine. We can damage our engine with inflammation and disease, or we can improve it. We can improve our energy, our efficiency, our recovery time, and even our mindset by sticking to a few basic common sense strategies. Start your day with a glass of water. This will help you avoid dehydration. You lose water through perspiration and respiration while you sleep. A glass of water in the morning is an easy, quick win. In that same vein, you want to drink mostly water. To fuel performance and avoid dehydration, try to consume approximately half your body weight in ounces of water each day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, try to drink 100 ounces of water. This is important if you are training hard, working out, and working to become the best tactical athlete that you can be. Less active individuals will likely want to adjust their fluid intake. A lot of us tend to grab any other form of beverage before we're willing to chug down a boring old glass of water. There's nothing wrong with an occasional beer, with your morning coffee or afternoon tea, but lots of Americans are hopelessly addicted to all forms of drinks. Giant lattes, energy drinks, sodas, alcohol. Whenever possible, aim for moderation in all things. I'm told that current estimates of alcoholism among first responders guesstimate that about maybe 30% of our members are suffering from addiction right now. If drinking is concerning to you or to your family, Annie Grace's book, This Naked Mind, is a must read. But the big idea when it comes to fuel is drink mostly water. When it comes to food, it's fairly simple. Eat real food. I'm talking about whole foods. The ingredient list is exactly what you're eating. For example, the ingredient list for an apple, an avocado, a banana, or a carrot is pretty simple. These are real foods. Eat them. Lots of them. Try to eat a rainbow every day. Aim for at least 5 different colors throughout the day. Try to eat seasonally and locally when possible. I won't try to convince you that one specific diet is better than the next. I know there are a lot of opinions and ideas out there, but most nutritionists and experts will agree on these basic principles. Dietitians also mostly agree that you shouldn't try to eliminate everything that you love, even the junk food. This generally just leads to binge eating, and it never really works. Rather than eliminating foods, try adding them. Try adding a small salad every day, or a handful of nuts, maybe a handful of blueberries. The more good stuff that you add into your diet, the less room that you have for filling up on processed, highly refined junk food. This table goes through some of the health benefits that you can get from different types of foods. It matches the color with the different body part and the health benefits of it. As we wrap up this training, I want to thank you for your patience and your resolve to improve health and resilience around the first responder world. We've looked at movement, we've looked at mindset, we looked at recovery and fuel as the 4 pillars of optimizing health and resilience. Now comes the hard part, building habits to support the information that you've just ingested. Building habits and routines doesn't happen overnight. Aim for small changes often. Gordon MacDonald, pastor and author of Ordering Your Private World, says, "Most of life is lived in the routine. The man or woman who learns to make peace with routine responsibilities and obligations will make the greatest contributions in the long run." Building habits that you look forward to and that improve your life will make all the difference in the world. Nobody is more miserable than the person who has to decide each day whether or not to show up and put in the work. Try to find those small habits, those quick wins that you enjoy, because small changes over time can drastically alter your course of travel. I hope that through self-examination, a little education, some deliberate practice, hard work, and a vision of resilience, you'll learn to find some of these quick wins, some helpful routines, and some lifelong habits that improve your ability to bounce back from anything that comes your way. The final slide is a collection of resources and phone numbers for all of our brothers and sisters who may be struggling. You can also find website information in our health and wellness folder located on the share drive. And I want to leave you with one final story. A grandmother is imparting wisdom to her grandchild. She says, "Inside of us are 2 wolves. They are constantly fighting. One wolf is full of arrogance, resentment, jealousy, all of those things you know are not healthy. The other wolf is made up of humility, empathy, honesty, all of the qualities that we value." The child ponders this for a moment, then asks, "Grandma, which wolf wins?" And the grandmother answers simply, "The one that you feed." Thanks, and I hope that you all will be safe and healthy out there.